podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
No breaks, no breaks, no fear, no fear. The official British Speedway podcast.
Well, you made it through the winter, and here we are, ready for another big season in British Speedway. The official British Speedway podcast, of course, will be with you every week through the season. And we're starting off in style with some great guests, some great interviews to bring you to kick off the brand new season. Our main guest for the first part of the podcast will be the brand new CEO of the British Speedway Premiership, but no stranger to British Speedway or indeed World Speedway. We'll be chatting with Phil Morris.
I really want to give the sport a big boost and try and move it forward in the right direction, and I will be doing everything in my power to do that.
We'll also have a bit of a roundup from the various press and practice sessions that have been taking place over the last week. Wolves have a very familiar looking side once again. Their key change is an old face in Rory Schlein.
Rory, you're back. Why are you here?
Yeah, I'm going to have to answer that question quite a few times.
We'll hear from Peterborough's latest signing, three-time World Champion Nicki Pedersen.
But now we're in the game, we're here in UK, and I can't wait to get back on the bike again.
And perhaps Ipswich stole the show with the winter signings. Emil Sayfutdinov, the former world number 3, heading to Vauxhall.
Last year it was tough time for me, but like I said, I can't wait for first meeting.
We'll also hear from the man who made it happen, Chris Louis. We've got Rob Lyon of the Peterborough Panthers, and also chats with Eric Riss and Ben Cook, and maybe a few others besides as well. All on the way on this first episode of 2023 of No Breaks, No Fear.
No breaks, no fear. The official British Speedway podcast.
Welcome to No Breaks, No Fear, back for 2023, and what an exciting season we have ahead of us. You've seen some of the signings that the clubs have been making, some of the world's best heading back to our shores, and we can't wait to see them in action, and we'll hear from some of them a little later on. First of all, though, we're putting the attention on one of the big appointments made during the winter, and not too long ago, actually, just a couple of weeks or so ago, it was announced that Phil Morris would become the new CEO of the British Speedway Premiership. Now, we're going to find out more about what that means, but of course you'll be familiar with Phil, no doubt. If you've watched any Grand Prix over the last few years or so, Phil has been the FIM race director for the Speedway Grand Prix Series, the Speedway World Cups and Speedway of Nations, and he will continue to do that in 2023 as well as this new job with the Premiership. He's had a very busy winter. You might not have been to any Speedway, but Phil has been down to Australia, also been involved in some ice speedway, and he's found time in his busy diary to join us. I must say, you're at the airport, aren't you, Phil? But thanks for joining us to tell us a bit more about this role. But it has been a busy time for you already the last few weeks.
Yeah, thanks, Ian, for having me firstly. And yeah, we've had a reasonably busy winter, and I'm really looking forward to new challenges ahead. Obviously, the one we're going to talk about now is the British Speedway Premiership, looking at helping that to improve its image, to make it a better product, hopefully. And I'm really looking forward to it. I really enjoy a challenge, and I'm keen to get going with it. Obviously, it's a new position, and it will be evolving all the time. But I think in general, it's an exciting time for me, and hopefully I can translate that to being a better time for the fan and TV viewer.
So let's start by just seeing what does your role cover? What is your remit? That's one of the questions that I've seen online. Fans have been asking, what does it mean? So what does the CEO cover? What are your responsibilities?
So my responsibility obviously is for Premiership Speedway at first. So it's not an overall BSPL issue. I'm targeted with Premiership only. Obviously with that, hopefully that filters down and can help the middle and lower tier of the sport as well. But yeah, my main objective is to I've pretty much got autonomy to make many decisions in the leagues of what gets done. Obviously there is still a process to be followed with anything like rule changes. They have to go through the Speedway Control Board, and certain decisions will have to go through the board of directors of the BSPL. So there is some things that will have to go in different directions. But from my initial sort of chats with team managers, riders, promoters, owners, it's all been very positive, and I feel everybody's on board to go forward with it. And I'm sure that we all know that there's been a few issues over the last year that haven't gone down well. I'm not saying we're going to eliminate everything, but ideally, these kind of issues that came up that didn't help the sport needs to be eradicated as much as possible. So yeah, I'm looking forward to doing my bit, and on top of that, I will be at the live TV events, overseeing them. Because obviously that's one of my jobs in the Grand Prix, to work with the TV and the production of an event. So I will be doing that at the live Eurosport events going forward as well.
So as far as fans are concerned, though, away from the TV, those in the stadium, will there be a difference in the immediate term, the very short term, to how the match day experience looks or operates? Or are we looking at things maybe a little bit further down the line, a little bit below the horizon as far as a fan's concerned then?
Obviously, short term is very difficult because of the time frame. I came in quite late, 15 days before the season starts. So it's difficult to do too much, but I'm trying to make a difference, especially for the visual look. And obviously, I'm targeting the first of the Eurosport live TV events. And that is where I feel I want people to see that and see a difference. I do want that to happen in all the league matches and not just specifically for a TV event. But I would think mainly at first, my proposal is to go around each track and visit them and make, I suppose, a dossier and things that I feel that they could do to improve. So yeah, it's going to be a bit of a personal touch for each club. That's my first thoughts. I want to do that. I've looked back at a lot of the live matches from last year with a different set of eyes. Obviously, rather than watching it for entertainment, which I've done before, I looked at it from a viewer that may not know Speedway, that would come in and just look at things. And there's a few things a lot of things we can improve on. And I hope I can pinpoint them and eradicate them and make them look better.
If you can hear a bit of beeping in the background, Phil is in an airport executive lounge at this moment in time, talking to us. Phil, then, so looking at this experience, when you go to clubs at the moment, obviously every club has its own way of doing things, and people have been involved in those clubs for a very long time. Are we saying then really one of the things you're looking to bring to it is an air of uniformity, that you get a similar experience wherever you go? Yeah,
uniformity is a perfect word there. There's lots of things when I ask what time is the track walk at each track, not one track could give me a real answer. What time the tyres get given out. I just want to make, of course, the fans won't see this, but even for the riders, the team managers, I just want to make something a bit more structured and have a plan in place that how the day should look. And of course, there's going to be some tracks that can't do that. I know, for example, at Wolverhampton, they don't, they have a later sort of entry because of the greyhound racing. And there is some other places that won't be the same. But in general, I would like to get more uniformity is a really good word, to try and make things feel the same. Of course, it's going to be different. You have different stadiums, but the product, the Premiership product needs to be at a level that everybody knows what they're doing, when there'll be a track grading, things like that, keeping it a bit more uniformed, even at that during a race meeting.
And what is your vision for the Premiership as a whole? Because we're seeing now, we've got the perfect recipes. The top riders are now coming back. We can see that, and there is an excitement going into this season, an expectation that we've not had since probably pre-COVID and maybe a long time before that, with the level of riders we've got now. But what is the vision for British Speedway, where it stands alongside the other leagues in the world?
Of course, I'm a fan as much as you are, Ian, as much as anyone else probably listening to this podcast. But I'll generally say anyone listening to this podcast is probably a Speedway fan. So my job is to get people that's not listening to this podcast to be watching Speedway and maybe listening to this podcast. So I've got a bit more of a vision that I would say is outside. I really appreciate the fans we've got. We're very lucky, and I say we because I'm a British person. I love Speedway. I've had a long time in the sport myself, so I do class myself as a fan, and I'm very honoured and privileged to be the CEO. But I feel going forward, there has to be a stepping stone. It would be nice to think we could do something overnight. Yes, we could if we had £1 million in a swag bag around the corner. Yes, we could, but that's not reality. So we have to do things in a realistic way that works for the promoters. And I do think we have to respect every promoter that's promoting, whether it's top, middle, or the lower league. All the Premiership promoters I know, they love the sport as well, and they've been in it for a reason, potentially not as a massive business reason, because they love the sport. And we have to respect that if it wasn't for all these promoters, the sport might not be here. So before we start looking forward, I feel as if we need to be thankful in Britain for what we've had across the board over the years with promoters, because the sport could well have been in a worse place now without them. I know a lot of people will be negative. That's sport, the fans have a right for their say, and I'm prepared to listen to that as well, of what people want, why they're having issues, why they're having problems.
With your experience of working with the very top riders in the Grand Prix series, do you think there is scope for further expansion with riders coming here to ride more often? Obviously, the Polish restrictions sort of and the way things work can impact on that, and that's sort of out of our control. But do you think there is scope for more and more riders now to look towards Britain as a place to come and ride?
Of course, we hope so. Financial limitations do put certain barriers in the way, because, as you know, there's much better remuneration for the riders in Poland, for example. So I do respect that it's not an easy job to get riders back, but what the riders have done this year, with 3 or 4 big names coming back and also sustaining what we have in some of the names, I think it's the start of something, hopefully. And then it's a bit of if we can get more people coming through the gates, if we can get better sponsorship, if we can get better TV contracts, then that will be able to improve the product, improve, conditions for riders, which will want them to come back. So for me, yes, it's something that obviously we hope for. It's not guaranteed it's going to happen, but I really hope it's the start of something and we can really build on it.
There is a very easy way to get people into Speedway tracks, and it could be remedied tomorrow, but you would need probably about £50 million in an advertising budget to do that, to buy TV ads and the billboards and all the things that people will say, well, that's what you need to do. Why aren't they advertising? The sheer cost. People, I don't think, realise quite how high the costs are of the TV ads that you see on your TV every night, and how much money is going in. Speedway simply cannot cope, and I don't think even Extraliga would manage it too easily in this country either, considering the prices here. How do we get those people who are not listening to this podcast, those people who've never been to Speedway at this moment in time, how do we get them through the gates, but without that massive advertising budget? How do we do that?
I would say you've probably hit my remit of what my job is on the head, and that's, I feel, where I and the sport itself, the Premiership Speedway, needs to be going forward. We need to be looking outside, and that's not disrespecting the fans we've got. That we love every fan that we have in this sport. The demographic is probably older than we would like. And again, we need to attract more, I think, youngsters. We need to, like you say, try different avenues, whether it's networking, whether it's working with the right people to get the right coverage that's not paid for, let's say. It's not an easy task. Like you say, if you had money, then things become easier. But, there is ways, and this is sort of my job going forward, to find these ways and try and, at the end of the day, it's getting bums on seats, and if that happens, then everyone's happy, the riders are happy, the promoters are happy, and hopefully that Eurosport, with my initial chats with them, we've got a really good communication, because they work under the Discovery banner, so there is a connection to the people that I would be dealing with. So I'm hoping that they're going to be happy, and then when we go to renegotiate, then that will also show up there. So there's lots of avenues. It's not going to be easy, because money does a lot of things, like you said already. But the reality of a TV commercial is probably the only time you could do that would be probably during a motorcycle event, which you really then sell into the converted. Is it, feasible, because the prices would be less? But that's something we really have to do, and I think each club has to play their part with the local, media, the local television, the local newspapers, and then if we can start building that connection, hopefully then we can build the sport up and it can be taken more seriously in national press, in national media. So you get your, let's say, free advertising through stories being there. So I see the benefits and the uplift of having stuff in national newspapers, on TV news shows. It's a big thing, and if we can start locally and then build that to make it national, then that will help on our case as well.
Yeah, definitely. Relationships with the people that you need are definitely an important thing. What you mentioned earlier that that there have been one or two issues over the last year that have been sort of controversial at some of the big meetings where we've seen riders heading off into a conference in a back room somewhere, and these are the kind of things that the focus gets dragged onto them, even though they're very, very small parts of a meeting. But it's this kind of stuff that I suppose sets fire sometimes online. People love to get stuck into the negative rather than saying how great that race was, but they'll happily talk about riders having a conference in a back room at Bellevue sometimes. So if that sort of situation arises again, where do you come into play? Are you the person then that would go in and sort of immediately have the say and sort that out?
Yes and no. I think if it was a live TV meeting, obviously yes would be the answer. I've obviously been lucky enough to be involved in the Speedway Grand Prix for 8 years. I have to make decisions on the spot. Sometimes they're right, sometimes they're wrong. I'm not perfect, but in any sport, a referee in football, if it's a 50-50 decision, 50% of the fans will hate him, 50% of the fans will love him. That's a reality, and Speedway will be the same. We've just got to try and anything that is a difficult decision, like you say, with things like that, it needs authoritative decisions to be made according to whatever's in front of you in the rule book. And I think everyone has to stand behind that. I do, yes, sometimes because maybe it is an ambiguous rule that hasn't helped, but someone I feel in situations have to make decisions, whether they're right or wrong. A decision has to be made and not have that 30, 40, 50 minutes, sometimes up to an hour, whether it's a negotiation or an issue. I don't want to talk about last year because we all know there was issues, on TV with an hour break on certain things. And it just feels like these kind of things hurt the sport. Of course they do. In any sport, whatever you are, especially if it's on TV in front of other viewers, you've got to try and eliminate the best you can. But of course, that also comes back to a meeting that's not on TV. We want something that, and I'm expecting the clerk of the courses at each track, for example, to be working better and more interested in more things. But I also understand they're volunteers. So there's a fine line between you have the riders and maybe the mechanics, the team manager and the promoter who classed as working, and the rest of the people at the stadium are probably volunteers, which, again, let's not forget, at each track you'll have flag marshals, you'll have pit marshals, you'll have start marshals, you'll have all these people, machine examinators, clerk of the courses. They're all volunteers that potentially could be working until 5 o'clock, getting changed and going straight to the track. So there's an understanding of that. And of course, people, I'm sure, will say, well, you need to get professional everybody. If that's the case, Speedway goes out of business if you pay everybody for their time. So we really respect every volunteer. And if anyone's listening to this, if they're just a guy stood there with a red flag, we value them so much they wouldn't believe. So we need to make them sure that they're valued, and hopefully then they will understand our vision, especially the clerk of the course who's there overseeing everything. He's in charge of that event. He needs to be at a level where hopefully they can lift that and make more senior decisions that will help the sport.
And as you say, it's all about the people, these people coming in and working throughout the winter, getting the stadiums right, doing what they can on the track to make the experience better. And without those, Speedway would be struggling, as you point out. There have been some big changes through the course of the winter to many tracks, most tracks getting the equipment put in for transponders. Some already have it, but very few of them. But that work's going on. And that's going to change the lives of the referees in particular. And again, that's going to simplify and make results a lot clearer, isn't it?
It definitely helps. I know from experience that the referee, when there's a tight finish, rather than if it's really tight and they have to look at maybe 10 replays over 2, 3, 4 minutes, because it's that tight, it's a very important decision. I know for a fact they've just looked over to the next table and said, was it blue or white? And they'll say blue won it by 10th of a second, okay, or hundredths of a second. Thank you very much. Answer done. So yeah, it does help the referee in that sense, because it gives him a definitive answer rather than maybe a camera angle that might not be perfect, and when it's slowed down it's a bit glitchy or whatever the wording would be for that. So if you have a proper photo finish camera, okay, that's different. But what we have now, having that extra backup as a live timing of each rider, does help that situation. It makes it a little easier for the refs, yes.
Some other changes that have come in, and these go across the board from the Premiership to the National League, is the simplification in the league points. 2 points for a win, 0 for a loss, and the aggregate bonus point carrying across as well. So we've got uniformity there. That word again across now all of the leagues, and things operating the same now across the 3 British leagues.
I think that's a massive plus point, and I am aware that the Speedway Control Board are potentially looking to follow the FIM rules as much as possible. Now, I know pretty much Polish Extra League follow them. If FIM decides something, they follow. So does Sweden. Britain have been lacking in this quite a lot. They have different ideas and different decisions, which I totally understand. There's certain reasons why. But I feel it doesn't help sometimes when riders are racing in Britain and they go to a different country, whether it's an international event, and there's a different set of rules. So again, I was coming a bit late for that for this year, but I'm hoping next year. But I'm already aware that the Speedway Control Board that's their goal, to sort of mirror alongside and fall in line with different rules. So yeah, I hope we can do that to make it a bit more simplified for maybe a fan when they watch Speedway Grand Prix or Extra League or whatever they watch, and then see something different in Britain, they'll wonder why. So hopefully we can eradicate that as well, maybe.
Here's one for you. I was talking with, I've done some interviews for my other podcast, My Humans of Speedway one, and I had Steve Worrell and I had Danny King on recently, who sends his regards. And Danny was saying that, what he would love to see, and I think Steve might have said it as well, is that and others have mentioned this too, the countdown clock. We see it in Extra Liga, we see it in the Grand Prix. Is it coming here?
I have to be very careful how I answer this one. For me, if I had a choice, every track would be, especially Premiership, which I'm talking about, we would adhere to the same rules as every other country. At the moment, the rules have already been dictated by the Speedway Control Board, and I know that there's a process to change rules that might not be as easy as people think. But yeah, in my eyes, what you've said there, it makes it, in my eyes, clearer for the fans at the stadium, for the fans watching on TV, for the referee, for the rider, for the start marshal, for everyone, that if the clock hits 0, you're out. It's quite a clear rule, but it's, again, another one that's different in Britain to the rest of the world. There is reasons, I've been explained the reasons, which, okay, I've respected the decision, but whether it happens this year, I don't know, but 100% I'm sure that will happen for next year. This year I won't get into the ins and outs of things, but yeah, I think you might be able to understand that it's a bit of an in discussion topic, let's say.
Okay, watch this space. We'll put it down as.
Having a 2-minute clock is a very simple It's not rocket science, let's say, and it just gives a visual story to the race. I have had people say to me, "Oh, 2 minutes is too long," but Speedway as a sport, that 2 minutes should be used, in my opinion, as a crescendo to the event. It should be a build-up. You should be able to see it, whether it's the right music, it's the right build-up, it's the right tension, and then it becomes 15 of them, each stories every meeting, and then at the end of that meeting, you've got a different story then, which is the final result. So for me, it's telling a story with that. But there's lots of things like that I'm aware that are potential, not issues, but they're always talked to about. Fans will talk about it and discuss it. So if we can move forward with things and try and not eliminate, but just try and appease, because fans, I've said in my interview with the Speedway Star, a lot of Speedway people are very bright, and there's a lot of people that have good brains. So for me, I would be looking to set up, maybe a fan from each team that could put some input forward and give, ideas from Ipswich, from Sheffield, from Kings Lynn, Peterborough, Bellevue, wherever, Wolverhampton, from all of the clubs, just to give feedback, because you have to respect that these are the people that's paying the wages of the riders. Of course, we would like a lot more of these people. That's the idea. But to take on board what they see as an event experience, whether it's on event, before the event, during, and then after the event, what can be improved from their eyes? And I really would. That's something, again, further down the line that I would like to look at.
Overall, the Premiership this season, as we mentioned, there are some big riders coming back in, not least the likes of Dan Bewley, reigning British champion, won the Grand Prix in Cardiff, and back on a track that he's had quite a lot of success at over the years at home. It'd be interesting to see how he gets on back at the likes of Monmore or Ipswich, and then at Ipswich, Emil back in Speedway. Nicki Pedersen back in the sport. We've got Jason Doyle, so we've got world champions, Grand Prix riders, and that's I've listed them all. But there's a lot of talent in the Premiership this year.
There is, and that can only bode well as we go through the season and going on. Then looking at these guys, I'm sure not necessarily these superstars will be in the playoffs, because it might be teams that don't have these, as we classed as the riders you spoke about then. But that's one thing that I'm aiming at. The playoff final will elevate a hell of a lot from what we've had. It has to be a separate entity. It has to be a bigger event. It has to be better. It has to be much, much, much lifted, in my opinion. Okay, I've got time to do that. So hopefully when we get to the playoffs, that will be a massive event for the teams involved. Of course, it'll be live on TV. The stadium hopefully will be packed, and we will have a very, very good show. That is the plan.
Looking forward to it. No, and I know we're trying to get people from outside the sport in, but there is also interest from people maybe haven't been for a while as well, who are getting their interest peaked again. And I've seen people saying, they're going to travel the length of the country to see, Nicki Pedersen ride at Peterborough one week, or to see Emil at Ipswich, and so there is going to be a lot of interest, and it's going to get people sort of off their sofas and into a stadium.
Of course, you notice the 2 or 3 guys you mentioned there that's new back this year. And that's obviously a financial investment from the clubs. They've potentially, I'm not saying taken a gamble, but it's a calculated risk that they've taken to, obviously, when you get some of the best riders in the world, you have to pay a reasonable wage. That's the way any job is. And obviously, I applaud what they've done, and I really hope that it pays off by people clicking them turnstiles and coming through. And that's the main thing. A bit of good, positive feedback is massive as well. And Speedway fans, I'm not saying they have a duty to help the sport, but sometimes I think it's in any sport. I'm not going to say it's just Speedway. You look at any sport, and if something goes wrong or something they don't like, they will chop it down as quick as they can. And some people have that opinion. You look at every time they go on social media, it's a negative. And some people are like that. Some people are very positive. That's you have to try and let's try and get the negative ones at least mediocre. Let's say that's the idea.
Great way of putting it. Well, if you can achieve that, you certainly achieve something. Phil, all the very best of luck for the season ahead. If anybody can do it, it's you, and I think it's a great choice for you to look after the Premiership. Everybody's the comments I've seen have been very positive, and as you were saying, what Speedway fans can be like, but I think they respect what you've done in the Grand Prix, and which you're going to continue to be doing as well alongside this, but looking forward to seeing what you can bring to British Speedway.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Obviously the season starting literally round the corner, and I can assure anybody I will give this as much effort as I possibly can, more than I can probably, because I want to see the project succeed, which also means I've succeeded. I'm not a quitter. I don't like to fail in things, and I hope I can really put my heart and soul into this project, and I really want to give the sport a big boost and try and move it forward in the right direction, and I will be doing everything in my power to do that.
There's the new Premiership CEO, Phil Morris, on No Brakes, No Fear. And I'm sure if you're a fan of Premiership Speedway, or indeed you're watching on the TV, you will see him in action. And you'll also see him in his pre-existing role of the last 8 years or so, working with the FIM on the Speedway Grand Prix series. Next, then, we'll hear from a few of the riders who are going to be featuring in the British Speedway Premiership. And we'll start off at Vauxhall. Ipswich Witches had their press day over the last 7 days, and we managed to grab a chat with the man that plenty of people have been talking about over the course of the winter. A surprise signing unveiled not so long ago. Emil Sayfutdinov is back in British Speedway, and we'll hear from him next.
No Brakes, No Fear. The official British Speedway podcast.
Welcome back. I'm Ian Brannan. Let's hear some of the interviews that we've managed to get at the various press and practice days that have taken place. And we'll start with the Ipswich Witches, who held their press and practice a few days ago at Vauxhall, and also unveiling their big signing of the winter. Former world number 3, Emil Sayfutdinov, making a sensational return to British racing. His only previous spell in the UK was in Coventry back in 2011, but now on the comeback trail after being forced to sit out 2022. He's a Polish citizen competing on a Polish licence, and he's now set to line up alongside Jason Doyle in British Speedway's Premiership. Well, Mike Boswell from Gen X Radio in Suffolk had a chat with Emil Sayfutdinov and started by asking him how the deal came about.
Yes, actually Chris Lewis called us in winter and asked about what we think about riding for the Ipswich, and I don't think a lot, but just say accept, and then of course we need to organize everything, is to ride in England, because we need to organize everything, paper or something like that, when bikes, so we'll be ready now, and so just want to say thanks for Chris Lewis, who will working hard, to back here, to England here. So again, and it was last year. It was tough time for me, but like I said, I can't wait for the first meeting.
Excellent, good to see you. Good to see you in this first meeting. And you've obviously been up there at the top of the GPs. You've also ridden across many different countries. Comparing Britain to the other countries, is there a different setup? Do you need different engines? Do you need give us some insight if you can around that place.
It's compared Poland for sure. It's different speedway here in England, because it's different tracks and different shapes and different rules, different sprockets for sure, and that's why I want to get some more experience here, is because always many years ago, it was good school in England to riding better, and if you wanna make growing up, and so we need to come here, and what can I say more? It's for sure, it will be hard for me, but I'm ready for that, it's because I like, it's pressure, I like stress, and I hope, I can score some points, for the team, and we can try to fight, it's like about the championship.
And focusing on the team, how many have you ridden before? How many do you know outside of the circle of the Ipswich witches as such?
Actually nothing, because I just tried to watch some from last year, some meeting here, and just how they're riding. But I think when I see in YouTube or somewhere, it's completely like different. It looks like track is big, but actually when I see, it's how many meters here, I was shocked, and it's. I don't know it's very narrow or not, but never see it yet. So today we're going to test, and we'll see.
So you might have a shock later on, okay. Or it'll be okay. Yeah. It'll be okay.
Yeah, but I'm ready, for that, because when I 2011 I've been in Arena Essex or Wolverhampton. It's really small there, so I think here it will be okay. See when we go to Cardiff, it's so not so bad.
Brilliant stuff. Good insight. Teammates.
Yep.
How many have you ridden with, and how many are you still kind of getting to know?
I know some guys, Jason, Kennery, and Danny, Reese. The other one is, I don't know how they riding in England, because I never see. But I think in paper we have a good team, and then just try to good fight and make a good fight, to the championship. So I never get the gold medal in England, so it's a good opportunity, to make this.
Chasing a gold medal in the UK, Emil Sayfutdinov, the new signing for the Ipswich Witches. Well, let's hear the other perspective from that deal. Let's hear from Chris Louis, who, of course, was instrumental in making that happen, and the story from his side, also chatting with Mike Boswell.
Chris, what a close season. Give us some insight into how it all came together, and nice to still see you in one piece, sir.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's been a long, hard winter, this one. I think I say that every year, but this one's been fairly extreme one way and another, with obviously putting the team together and injuries and all sorts of things. But we're at press day, and we seem to have a 1-7 now. So it's one that I'm very happy with. So I'm really looking forward to getting going now.
And sort of, in the close season, just give us an insight to how you start that team building. You're a promoter as well, there's financial figures, all things of how do you decide you're going to run and what league you're going to run in and what team you're going to run?
There's never any doubt that we want to operate at the top if we're able to do so. So that one's easy. But putting a team together, obviously the sport has its rules with points limits, which adds its own difficulties. We're actively trying to attract the best riders back to our league in the Premiership in the UK, and I feel I've done my bit with that job. Obviously bringing Emil back, Emil back to the country, but first time in Ipswich, and Jason returning from last year, along with Eric and Daniel and Danny, and Keenan. He's an exciting prospect, young Australian. He's got his experience last couple of years in Poland. And just wants to add the UK to that portfolio and the experience that can give you. So obviously unfortunate that we've lost Jack Thomas before we even get going through an accident in training. He's got a couple of back injuries which are going to take quite some time to heal, but you've got to look after yourself, particularly your back. And young Joe Thompson comes in. Took him about 30 seconds to make the decision when he got the call. So he's grabbed the opportunity with both hands, and to learn from people like Jason and Danny and Emil, he's not going to get a better opportunity than that. So really looking forward. Great bunch of lads, looking forward to getting going.
And really big scoop trying to get Emil in, but got to ask you, there's no yellow pages anymore of Speedway riders. So how did the light bulb moment come that I'll go after Emil, or were you looking elsewhere as well?
Well, of course, you're sort of scouring Europe for all of the riders and considering every option. But it was way back in November. We there's the political side to that signing, which we don't need to go into. It's very obvious. But when I realised that he would be getting a licence to race in Poland, I thought, this is a guy that really we need in the club. You know, he's only 2 years ago he was third in the world, and it was an opportunity for him to get racing again, having had a year suspended. So it felt to me like a very good fit, and he's a mild-mannered, amiable young man, very polite, who I've known since he was 16. He hit the world scene, chasing back wheels as he was then, but it's made him the racer that he is. And I just felt, if there's an opportunity for that, I think we should take it.
And sort of, we look across the whole of the league. I know, obviously, you're a director of the BSPA, but it's been quite strong at the Premiership level this year. Was that intentional to try and open up those doors?
Yeah, I mean, everybody wants to see the Premiership as strong as it can be, and wants it to be the number one league in the world again. You don't have to go back that far, and it was. Poland has well exceeded that these days. We all accept that. But you've only got to look at our first meeting of the year. It's a league match against local rivals Peterborough, and you're going to have, at the top end of both teams, you're going to have Jason Doyle, Emil Sayfutdinov against Nicki Pedersen and Niels Christian Iversen. So, the world stars are coming back. And that's got an interesting look to it as an opening night.
Absolutely. And to that opening night, it's always a big start to the season. What's your thoughts on that first kind of thing? Is it going to be pretty much an intense battle between the witches? Do you see a leading light coming out of that?
No, leading lights. I mean, Jason, without question, was the number one rider for Ipswich, but in the league as well last year. So, of course, not wanting to add any pressure, because he doesn't need it. He puts enough on himself. But he I'm confident will lead us again. And if the likes of Emil and Danny and Eric, they're returning riders, if they can back him up, and Keenan can find his feet fairly quickly, then I don't think we'll have one leading light. I'd like to think that we're going to be a more solid 1 to 7 than people think. We look top heavy. I accept that. But if we can gel, then we will be a good unit as well.
Ipswich promoter, Ipswich legend, Chris Louis, speaking with Mike Boswell. Now, we've often said that Speedway riders are a different breed, and when you look at some footballers rolling around after a little innocent knock on their ankle, you have to wonder where they are in life. Now, Eric Riss broke his leg in the middle of last season. He came back from that injury for both Redcar and for the Ipswich Witches, and rode magnificently at the end of the season. However, what he didn't realise at the time was that he'd done his cruciate ligaments in his knee. Now, these are the kind of ligaments for many other sports people that would end their season, certainly in some cases end their careers. Eric Riss, he was riding a speedway bike at 70 miles an hour. Eric picks up the story.
Last year in June, end of June, July actually, sorry. Yeah, broke my fibula and also tore my ACL and LCL. I had surgery on the fibula, and then 6 weeks after surgery last year I went back on the bike and I had a lot of knee pain, and at that point I wasn't aware I tore my ACL, and then I got that checked out again and found out I tore my ACL and LCL, and then I decided to finish the season because there was still a few meetings left that I could do, and I was pain free, so I was riding a few meetings and then got surgery straight after the season was done. And I'm still recovering from it. It's a long process. ACL injury is usually 6 to 9 months. So I'm still only three and a half months into recovery, and so it's still not fully healed. It's still a long process, but I feel like I'm at a point where I can ride my bike pain-free. Obviously, there's a big risk of getting injured again if I, crash, unfortunately. But I'm willing to take that risk.
Fair enough, and it looks to be a pretty busy season for Eric Riss on the Speedway front. How many clubs are you involved with, both continent and also in the UK? And what's your individual plans?
Yeah, so obviously I ride for Ipswich. Then I got Redcar in the Championship in the UK as well, and then I ride in the Polish First Division with AC Landshut. So yeah, 3 leagues. Then I also got the German League, which I nearly forgot because it's only a few meetings. It's only 6 meetings a year, so not that much. But yeah, I'll take part in that as well. And then, if time allows, I'll do a few individual meetings in Germany or wherever there is one that pays well. And then maybe some long track as well. We'll see. I come from long track routes, and I still can't fully let go of it, and every time there's a chance for me to do one or the other meet, and I'm happy to take that chance and do it.
Eric Riss likes going fast, and there he is speaking with Mike Boswell. Well, there was a late change forced upon the Ipswich Witches. Unfortunately, Jack Thomas sustained some serious injuries in a pre-season practice, and that's certainly going to rule him out for quite some time. He's aiming to come back by the end of the season, I think, but it may well be longer than that. However long it takes, best wishes to Jack Thomas. Replacing him, another JT, Joe Thompson, gets the call-up and his opportunity to ride for the Ipswich Witches. We'll hear from Joe himself in a moment, but first of all, let's hear from Chris Louis, who explains the decision in choosing Joe Thompson to take the place of Jack Thomas. Many people were perhaps expecting Anders Rowe or Drew Kemp to take that slot, but a change in direction. Chris Louis explains all, and then we'll hear from Joe Thompson himself.
You know, I'd love to think that he will be racing for Ipswich again one day in the near future. Right at this time, you know, the decision was made. You know, we'd like everybody else, we'd read things from Drew, and he found the pressure of racing for his hometown club sort of a little bit difficult to contend with, and except that if he needs a period of time without that added pressure, then he should have that. And so you know, it is absolutely nothing against Drew, and I would like to think that he'll return to the club maybe with just a bit more experience, a little bit older in the coming years.
Yeah, definitely. Really looking forward to this year, riding in all 3 leagues in the UK. So yeah, it should be definitely some good track time and experience, and really excited to be at Ipswich as well. I'm very grateful for the opportunity to be here, and yeah, very sorry for Jack Thomas to get injured. It's never nice to see anyone be injured racing, but it's a great opportunity for myself, and very thankful to receive it.
And of course, predominantly ridden with Leicester for a number of years. What's your kind of experience of Ipswich? Is it? How have you ever raced on it?
Yeah, I've done only a couple meetings or so at Ipswich. So the press and practice day and also the team practice day will be very valuable to me, and a chance for me to really get dialed in at Ipswich and as a home track. So yeah, I'll be looking to build on my experience there, definitely.
So there is Joe Thompson, and a busy year for him, riding for the Ipswich Witches, but also the Scunthorpe Scorpions in the Championship and the Leicester Lion Cubs in the National League, which is a track that he's pretty much grown up around. Interestingly, the Ipswich Witches will be lining up against the Leicester Lions for their second fixture, which is going to mean heat number 2, Dan and Joe Thompson up against each other for real around the track they grew up on. And now let's talk about the first opposition, though, for the Ipswich Witches. That'll be the Peterborough Panthers. In the next part, we'll hear some audio from their press and practice day, which took place in the last couple of days. Not least, we'll hear from Nicki Pedersen in the next part of No Brakes, No Fear.
No Brakes, No Fear. The official British Speedway podcast.
Welcome back. In this final part, we will hear from Rory Schlein soon, who's making a return to Monmore Green and the Wolverhampton Wolves. First of all, let's move the spotlight onto the Peterborough Panthers, who also got together for the first time on their press and practice day. I don't think there was too much in the way of practice. It was more press. You don't need to know about these details. First of all, let's hear from the big signing of the winter. Announced not so long ago, but what a name to bring back to British Speedway. 3-time world champion Nicki Pedersen has been chatting to Dave Rowe.
Nicki Pedersen, great to see you here today and for the season ahead. How are your preparations for the season going?
Well, so far so good. I feel good in my body. You know, it's been a tough winter, you know, but also a great winter to the fitness-wise. I'm back in good shape, so can't wait to get back on the bike. I tried a little bit in Hungary for a couple of days, but now we're in the game. You know, we're here in the UK, and I can't wait to get back on the bike again.
And joining the Peterborough teammates for the first time, so in with Niels and Hans and so on, an exciting year ahead?
Yeah, I mean, I think the atmosphere is going to be pretty good, you know, that's going to lift the whole thing, that we can have good fun, you know, and the boys just get a good experience, you know, and we know each other for many years, so it's going to be good on the team, and everybody, you know, is important on the team, and we're going to have some good fun and hopefully make lots of success.
You've had a chat with the promotion this morning with Michael and Carl and Rob Lyon as well. Have they been telling you what they expect?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to have another talk again with Rob Lyons. He's finally the team manager, you know, which is good. You know, he's one of the best around, so I'm pleased with that. So, no, it's been good with Michael and Buster also, you know, with the promoters, you know. I can't wait, you know, to get this going, you know. It's excitement for me also and excitement for the fans of Peterborough, so we're going to see, you know, how it's going to go, but I can't wait.
And excitement for British Speedway, because as long as the weather holds, this week Ipswich against Panthers, Jason Doyle and Emil looks really, really exciting.
Yeah, I mean, with some experienced riders here, you know, Hans Andersen, Ipswich and Ebers, Doyle and Emil, you know, it's going to be exciting, you know, and it's good for the British fans, so we can't wait to get on the bike, you know, and hopefully the weather's going to stay, you know, so we get some cracking weekends.
Thanks, Nicky, great to see you back, thank you.
Nicki Pedersen, 3-time world champion, lining up back in British Speedway with the Peterborough Panthers. And they'll be in action very, very soon, and say up against the Ipswich Witches, and we heard about them a little earlier. Another rider making his debut for the Peterborough Panthers, indeed making his debut in the British Speedway Premiership, is Ben Cook. A lot of excitement has been surrounding Ben Cook through his time with the Poole Pirates, who he remains with for a third season in the Championship, and now he's able to take a step up to the Premiership. And he's also been chatting with Dave Rowe.
Ben, big season for you coming up, obviously making the step up this year. Good time to be doing it, you think?
Yeah, for sure. It's a next step in my career, so what better time than now? So yeah, looking forward to it.
Something you have to do. You've done 2 years Championship, still going to be in there, probably scoring very well, but at your age and so on, you have to step up, don't you, to race against these top guys?
Yeah, if you want to be the best, you got to burst the rest. So yeah, no, it's the next step for me, and yeah, like I said, just looking forward to it, and hopefully continue off from last year, and yeah.
Peterborough track ought to suit you from what we've seen, your ability on these sorts of circuits?
Yeah, it looks good. I've always thought that I would enjoy the track, and I haven't personally rid it yet, but obviously seen meetings on the Eurosport and all that, but yeah, looking forward to it, and yeah.
Obviously part of this team which has some real experience and characters like Nicky and Niels who have been there, done everything. Hopefully you'll learn from them.
For sure. I've said it before, you can't buy experience, so yeah, no, they'll be good. They'll be good for all of us boys, not just younger ones, but everyone's learning, and you're never not learning, so yeah, it'll be good.
Interesting start on Thursday, hopefully it stays dry, riding in Ipswich, who have made headlines themselves with their team, so it could be quite a big night.
Yeah, for sure, a big clash straight away, and yeah, it's a tough time of year because you just want to ride your bike, but the weather's not playing part, but yeah, hopefully get a few laps in on Wednesday at Poole, and it'll be sweet for Thursday.
Ben Cook then making his debut with the Peterborough Panthers. His brother Zach Cook will be lining up for the Wolverhampton Wolves, and we'll hear from Rory Schlein soon. Before we do that, let's hear the words of Rob Lyon, the team manager at the Peterborough Panthers. It's been a roller coaster ride over the last couple of years, winning the league title in 2021 and in 2022, the opposite end of the spectrum. What will 2023 have in store? Here's the thoughts of Rob Lyon, the Peterborough team manager, with Dave Rowe.
I think there's 7 real solid teams, and I think there'll be some interesting results. I think it'll be a tight league, if I'm honest, which is what everybody wants, really. I can't see any team out there, you know, possibly Sheffield, I guess, is on paper. You don't win anything on paper, do you? But Sheffield on paper probably look the strongest, but there's certainly 7 teams that can go all the way, I would suggest at this stage.
The bookmakers have Peterborough in that pack battling for a playoff place. Is that where you see things with this lineup as things stand at the start, with no one really knows what is going to happen, but what are your initial expectations?
Yeah, you can only go what's on paper, and I think that's a fair assumption. Yeah, I think that's a fair sort of call, really. I think it will be in the mix somewhere, without a doubt. Every team's going to say the same thing at this time of year, aren't they? But realistically, that's, you know, it's all about playoffs, isn't it? It's all about playoffs, getting there, and then anything can happen, as we know. So that's the initial aim.
There has been a refresh here, some new faces from last season. Obviously, the big experience of the likes of Nicky and Niels. What do you think they can bring, and are you personally looking forward to working with them?
Well, I've known Niels for a number of years, to be honest, and worked with him for quite a few years. And I've never worked with Nicky before, but obviously I'm aware of his professional and his reputation goes before him. Really, he's straightforward, I think, and I'm sure we'll get on great. And their experience of both of those guys will rub off on the younger riders in the team, the likes of Benjamin and Ben Cook and Jordan. Obviously, I think should benefit a tremendous amount this year. Not just in advice, but the fact that they're actually riding alongside those type of riders. Can't buy experience.
There's Rob Lyon, team manager of the Peterborough Panthers. Next up, let's focus on Wolves, who keep a fairly familiar-looking lineup. Just a couple of changes, really. One was enforced in Nick Morris, who had to choose between the Leicester Lions and the Wolverhampton Wolves. He's staying with Leicester as they move up a league. And also an addition at reserve. Drew Kemp moves out. Zach Cook, the brother of Ben Cook, moves into the side. But it was Rory Schlein who was the surprise package. And BBC Radio WM's Mike Taylor, he's not afraid to ask the important questions on the tip of all of our tongues.
Rory, you're back. Why are you here? Because we all said goodbye to you.
Yeah, I'm going to have to answer that question quite a few times. Look, without going into a long-winded answer, just things just didn't turn out the way we were hoping. Yeah. The racing side of things was sort of not a lasting moment, but just sort of it's an option. I made a few phone calls and then 6 months later, here we are.
Yeah.
So
racers want to race, Rory, don't they?
Yeah, I'll be honest. My last race after the final, I was generally done. I was spent. Yeah. I got home and I said to the missus, I'm tired. I'm done. I'm mentally worn out. And then they always say absence makes the heart grow fonder, but it took one practice and here we are. So it was more the fact that knowing that I could still do it, and then I did a meeting in Australia and racing against the likes of Jamin Lindsay and Adam Ellis and well on the pace. So it was after that I thought, what, why not?
Yeah.
So
because you don't just want to come back, you want to do it well, don't you?
I want to do it, and Pete and Chris know that. I've worked with them long enough to know they know that I wouldn't do it half-hearted. No. You can't. And a little bit of me has a little bit of unfinished business, if I'm being brutally honest. The 2017 loss still stings a little bit, and nothing would make me more happier than winning a league with Wolves for sure.
And this team could do it. I mean, it's a competitive league and there are some big names in it this year, but you're a strong team.
I've been asked that question a few times as well, and we might not be the team that jumps out on paper, but we're a team that is solid from 1 to 7.
Yeah.
And we only have to look at what Peterborough did a few years ago. They were picked bottom by every club, and they went on and dominated the league. So we've got a team. The riders know how to ride Wolves, which is a huge thing. We've got a team that can ride away from home, like Dougie and Luke and Sam ride Sheffield, Bellevue, Peterborough really well. Yeah. So, look, if they want to treat us like underdogs, bring it on. I like, more the merrier. Don't care, because at the end of the year we know what's said on paper means absolutely diddly squat towards the end of the year, because I think Peterborough proved that. Yeah. So we'll be happy to go in under the radar and start tearing trees and stumps all over the place and start getting some results.
There's a strength in building a team that way, isn't it? Because riders do by nature gain and lose form. Things happen to riders during the course of a season. If you've got lots of riders who can perform, that's a strength.
I don't wish injury on anyone, but injuries can happen as well. So,
but form comes and goes as well.
So, but the best thing about the Wolves team is a lot of youth there as well. Yeah. There's other teams with youth, but I think we've got a team that the potential is high, very high. So look, if I was to say go in under the radar or go as one of the favourites with the pressure on, give me the underdog every day of the year, and the Wolves supporters I think like that sort of underdog, and I just think we've got characters as well in the team. So, look, I think, they can write us off or do whatever. Yeah. I know what this team's capable of, and I know the potential of these riders. I've ridden with them long enough, and I know what British Speedway can do.
last thing. At 38, you were speaking of youth, 38 is not old for a speedway rider, and there are lots of examples of riders pushing even further on, well beyond where you are now.
I thought I was going to be one of the oldest ones, but Nicky's obviously surpassed that. But yeah, he's a pure example, and he's had some pretty big injuries of late as well. So you can never fault his mental strength, his commitment, his desire, hardness.
Yeah.
But he'll still have question marks over him because he's coming back from a big injury, as Chris Holder knows, a very similar injury. So it took Chris, a couple of years to get over that. So just because Nicky can't rely on his 3 World Championships, he's got to go out there and put the points on the board. Yeah. So he's still got to perform. But again, you still respect everyone when you go to the start line, and you've got the likes of Emil, you've got Bewley. So it's a stacked league. It's a very tough league this year.
Certainly is, but an exciting year ahead for all of us, and you'll be able to see Rory Schlein in action as part of Sam Masters' testimonial, which takes place at Monmore on Sunday. Also in that will be Luke Becker, Ryan Douglas, Jason Doyle, Jai Etheridge, Max Frick, Chris Harris, Freddie Lindgren, Sam Masters, Nick Morris, Scott Nichols, Josh Pickering, Justin Sedgman, Jakob Torsell and Rowan Tungate. That's in alphabetical order, not the draw order. And if you can't make it to Monmore, you can watch that fixture on BSN as well. Let's have a look at the fixtures then as we head through this week and see what we have in store as we get moving with British Speedway. The very first fixtures in the Premiership takes place on Thursday. The Sheffield Tigers versus the Bellevue Aces and the Ipswich Witches versus the Peterborough Panthers in the round 1 of the Premiership. Then on Friday, we've got a special meeting taking place at Redcar, the Echo Arena. It's Redcar Bears against a Newcastle Diamonds select. A good lineup for Newcastle there as well, including both of the Worrells. Richie and Stevie will be in that one. On Saturday, it's the Ben Fund Bonanza at Kings Lynn. Another strong lineup in this one as well, and of course this is taking place at the Adrian Flux Arena, another place where you can see Freddie Lindgren in action, who's certainly making most of his time over here. He had a bit of disappointment on Monday at the Peter Craven meeting, but he's in action for the Ben Fund, along with Simon Lambert, Danny King, Connor Mountain, Lewis Kerr, Michael Palm-Toft, Steve Worrell, Charles Wright, Tom Brennan, Kyle Howarth, Richie Worrell, Ben Barker, Jakob Torsell, Paul Stark, Justin Sedgman and Christoph Kasperzak are all going to be lining up in that one for the Ben Fund, raising much needed funds to help and support riders who find themselves injured or need medical treatment, even many years down the line, past and present riders. Everybody benefits from that, and unique in World Speedway, the Ben Fund Bonanza taking place on Saturday. And then, looking further ahead after the weekend's events that we just talked about, Monday, back to Premiership action. It's the Peterborough Panthers versus the Ipswich Witches, and we've got the Bellevue Aces up against the Sheffield Tigers in a repeat of the grand final from last year. So that's how the fixtures stack up over the next week. A decent start to the season. Fingers crossed for the weather. Let's get on there and see some top-class speedway wherever you are. Get there in person, or you can watch on BSN those meetings at the weekend as well. And then we'll be back with you here on No Breaks, No Fear next week. And the next episode will be on Wednesday for a review of those opening matches and also a look ahead to what lies in store. And also next week, Steve Worrell having his testimonial. And we've got the Premiership Knockout Cup getting underway, so we'll be talking all about that next weekend. Keep up to date with everything happening across British Speedway. Of course, on your favourite social media app of choice. Certainly Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, regular updates on there. And have a great week and hope to see you trackside soon. Finally, just like to give a mention to Nigel Pearson. It would have been his birthday this week, in fact on the 21st of March, and obviously dearly missed by all within Speedway. Without Nigel, we probably wouldn't have had this podcast, to be honest. He was a huge driving force behind it and was very heavily involved until his sad passing last year, and hugely missed by all in the sport. So we'll raise a glass to you tonight, I'm sure, Nigel, and he would have absolutely loved what lies ahead this season in Speedway with some of the riders that we've got coming on track. Happy birthday, Nige, wherever you are, and we'll catch you next week on No Breaks, No Fear.
No Breaks, No Fear, the official British Speedway podcast.
Social Podcast Network.